welcome to Reasons Podcast. And on today's episode, we'll be talking about why we should care for the environment as we are about to commemorate World Environment Day. If you like our content and like the types of interviews that we are doing here, kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel and also our various social media platforms on Instagram and Facebook as well. And ladies and gentlemen, today we have a very special guest with us here today, Mrs. Larihun Jingap, who's actually an assistant professor in the Department of Environmental Science in St. Edmund's College, Shillong. She has her MSc in Ecology and Environmental Science from Assam University, Silchar, and she specializes on ecology and management of forests and agricultural biodiversity. She has worked in different projects concerning the environment and conservation of the environment as well. She has had and done many talks on preserving the environment and so on in All India Radio and different platforms as well. And she has also published a number of scientific papers as well. And she's also currently pursuing her PhD in the Department of Earth Sciences in the University of Science and Technology, Meghalaya. So Ms. Larry, welcome to our podcast, and we are so grateful that you could make it here with us. You know, when we talk of the environment, we know that the environment is not the way that it used to be. Now we're living in Shillong, for example. We know that, Shillong has become a very warm place. The rains are becoming kind of more irregular and so on and so forth. So, why is the degradation of the environment a moral issue? Could you just help us enlighten us with that here?
So when we talk about environmental degradation, it's quite a vast topic because there will be land degradation, water degradation, forest degradation, and so on. We can go on and on. Because even the term environment itself is a vast topic. You see, during the past few decades, it has been observed that there's an increasing consciousness and concern about the environment in which we live. And this has deteriorated very fast. We are witnessing the decline in the quality and even the quantity of the resources, the quantity of air, water, then soil, land, and even the living organisms. So we are damaging the environment, the air we breathe and the water we drink gets polluted. Even the rain, the rains are becoming erratic, the forest is depleting, the topsoil is eroded, and even the ozone layer is damaged. Climate change everywhere, and there's a danger of global warming. So environmental degradation is threatening the very existence of human beings. So, like for example, if we look at the water resources, the water is available, the amount of water which is the total water covered the Earth's surface is 97%, right? And out of the total available water on Earth, 97% is salt water, right? And only 3% is fresh water, right? And even that small range or that small factor, or you can say the small percentage of fresh water which is available for us to use, some of that is locked up as polar ice, right? As snow, as ice, as sleet, right? And again, very minute percentage, say around 0.003% is available for us as groundwater and surface water. So just imagine if we just take, say, a bucket full of water, just imagine that is the total amount of water which is available, right? And we take a spoonful, and just a spoonful from that bucket of water, that much spoonful of water is available for us for use, for drinking, for cooking. And if we pollute that much amount of water, then how much water is left for us? Just imagine. So we are impacting the environment, and not only we are impacting the current generations, we are even impacting the future generations as well. So if we knowingly mistreat the environment, right, that means we are not acting on a moral manner.
And, when we talk of the environment degrading, we know that there are natural processes that actually contribute to the environment degrading in certain ways, but also there are man-made ways in which, the environment is degrading. So can you just enlighten us how we as human beings contribute to this degradation of, the environment, and how maybe a few steps in how we can actually help contribute as human beings, as single persons, how each of us individually could perhaps, contribute in a way so that we can actually stop or slow down this degradation. Yeah.
Let's take example land degradation. We know soil. The soil is made up of thin crust, right? Just a thin layer of crust. And that thin crust is very vulnerable to damage, right? And if it is damaged, then it is very extremely impossible to put it back.
Okay.
To regain back that, it will take time, because the layer of the soil, it takes years and hundreds and thousands of years to form. Right? So we are degrading. We need soil, right, to produce crops and to produce food. And if we degrade that soil, then from where can we get food and crops? Right? That soil. Obviously, soil is not a renewable resources, and it is not even exhaustible source of soil nutrients. But again, if it is replaced or replenished constantly, the fertility is replaced, then only we can have a good soil, right? The good quality of soil. So that again will affect. If just again another example, if we just harmed, or if one species goes extinct, then what will happen? We directly or indirectly will be affected. If one species die, then some other species will die. Even that will affect us. So
wow. So when we, as maybe cultivators and people who use the soil, we have to be mindful of the impact that it could have for our future generations as well. And people, within, particularly within the hill countries, or, within the hill stations, we like to go on hunting, and, there are kids who like to shoot at birds and so on and so forth. So what you're basically saying is that perhaps if this hunting instinct in us is not controlled, perhaps we could lead to the possible extinction of a species, which would in turn affect another species, and so on. The chain continues. So I think that is a very useful tip that you could give us as well. And when we talk about preserving the environment being a moral issue, how does one's worldview actually affect the way we think or the way we care for our environment?
Okay. When we say worldview, that means that is our relationship to the environment, both consciously and unconsciously, right? And it also includes our responsibility towards the environment, protecting the environment, caring for the environment, and so on, right? So with that question, let's consider two specific worldviews, which we know. One is the materialist worldview, and the other the so-called post-materialist worldview. Materialist worldview, which you all know, it's considered to be the most dominant worldview of the Western society, right? So we believe that changing our worldview is a key in changing the environmental ethics, specifically the behavior, the attitudes, the beliefs, and even the action towards the environment. So when we talk of a materialist worldview, it suggests that humans have only limited responsibility for caring for the environment in which we live. A very limited responsibility. And humanity is not responsible for ensuring that all life on earth is sustained. Right? So they only focus on human life. Right? So whereas when we look at post-materialist worldview, this is grounded in a perception of unity and planetary wholeness, and also that engenders compassion of all the living organisms, and also compassion towards caring for the earth, the earthly home. Right? So when we say changing of the worldview, it means transformation in worldview, or say shift from a materialist to a post-materialist worldview.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So this will be brought forth where we have the integration of the unity and planetary wholeness of all the living organisms, and also at the same time caring for all the living organisms, caring for the earth as a whole, the planet as a whole, and it includes us human beings as well.
Sure. And speaking from a biblical worldview, the book of Genesis tells us that we human beings were created in the image of God to dominate all other creation. And when you use this word called dominate creation, it could be misused and misunderstood, but rather a better translation or better understanding of this word dominated creation would actually be to kind of be stewards to the creation of God. So when you are kind of the steward to the creation of God, it would actually mean that you have the responsibility of caring for the environment, caring for the very place that where you're living, the earth, the ecosystems, that the biodiversity that you have, so I think looking from a biblical point of view as well, from biblical worldview, that is, I think we as moral persons are morally obligated to caring for the environment as well. So I think a follow-up question to that could also be this: what are the obligations people have to the environment, and what is the basis of those obligations?
Okay, that's a very interesting and important question. But one question that arises mostly comes to our mind is, what do we owe to the future generations, right? These questions is very important, and it's relevant in today's world, because when you look at the modern technology, it's affecting the environment, affecting the environment right from the past, and even in ways that it will last hundreds and thousands of years.
Sure.
Right? So it is our responsibility, our duty to preserve and protect the environment, and also to sustain life and living organisms. Of course, environment, it knows no boundaries. Right? Like for example, if we know that if the ice melts from the polar caps, all the low-lying areas of the world will be flooded.
Sure.
Right? And in case of, say, nuclear accidents or nuclear disasters, radiations, again, do not know boundaries.
Sure.
Do not know boundaries of states, of cities, or countries, or continents, and even directions, right? So if radiation, it affects anyone who is on its way, on their route, right? So environment is ours, not his or hers, right? So we need to preserve and protect in a way that our duty is owed, not merely to all other human beings or non-human beings or even inanimate objects, right? Of the present generations, but even it can extend to the future generations as well. So our constitutional obligations is to care for the environment and also have a sustainable development.
Sure. So, from a biblical point of view as well, I think the obligation that we have as creatures created in the image of a superior creator, would also be that, since we are God's creatures, God's creation, we have our obligation to care for what God has created for us. And in that sense, when we care for God's creation, our first obligation would be to God, and then also to ourselves, the rest of the world, all of other creation, the environment, biodiversity, the different species that are there, and also, like you said, the future generations. Until and unless we kind of start caring for the environment in a way that we are supposed to, you might never know if the future generations would actually thrive or prosper. We could have, made a world where it is practically unlivable. There are many cities around India itself where they are falling short of fresh water. Basically, big cities around India as well, they are, the biggest concern is that, they don't have fresh water anymore. And in a few years' time, these cities would be practically unlivable. So I think, our obligations to the environment, our obligations to our future generations, and ultimately our obligations to, the one that created everything is going to be ultimate. So I think that is something that we, you viewers, we would also like to put this message across to you as well. Yes. So, as a final question, it could be asked, to what degree are ethics aided by social accountability to others? To what degrees are ethics social, that is, having to do with moral obligations to others collectively as well as, others individually? So that is a final question for you, yeah.
Okay. Okay, like I've mentioned earlier, if we knowingly mistreated the environment, that means we are not acting on a moral manner, right? So environmental ethics should be brought into practice, right? And environmental ethics, like all the behavior, the action, the attitudes towards the environment, even the beliefs towards the environment. So this should be brought into practice through effective environmental policy via formal, informal, or educational, or institutional, or media, right? And also active participation of the local people. This is very important. The active participation of the people from different society, different sections of society, which may include women, youth, and even those concerned individuals, concerned citizens for caring for the environment. Again, this is very important. It is very important in society as well as the environment. I can give example, even Mahatma Gandhi, he reiterated this bond, the eternal bond of mankind, mankind coexists with nature, right? So he advocated that people should not use beyond their shares, should not use more of their shares of resources, but they can use according to their need satisfaction, rather than greed promotion. Right? So environment, even the clean, the healthy and safe environment, this is important. This is again, it's like is a human right, right? For clean, healthy and safe environment. This is a human right. Scrafur Ghazwani, he's one of the officials of the United Nations, once said that environment is a human right. Environment is the life supporting system of humanity. Right? So even environmental ethics is a code of behavior to protect this right. Right? So even socially, when we talk about social awareness, this will help in bringing the change in a way that we perceive the environment. Right? And how we conserve, how we try to sustain and have a sustainable development, right? So that is, again, that is ethical, which is social, and again, social, ethical. So ethical, environmental ethics, this is, again, like I've mentioned again, I'll repeat, it can be brought into practice, integrated with the social awareness or the active participation of the society.
Yeah, thank you. And a wonderful point that you actually made, and when you quoted Gandhi, was when he said, be driven by your need, not your greed. And I think this is something that we have to take away. And when we look at the world around us right now, many of our developments, many of our progress, so to speak, it's driven by greed at times. And if we have a mindset or a worldview that actually changes all of that, and I think we could have a future hope for, the coming generations as well. And I think with that, we thank you, Madam Larisha, for, spending your valuable time with us. And we also hope that you will complete your PhD soon. And that, as you go out to speak, to people, to preserve the environment, also conserve the biodiversity, we hope that you will continue to do the good works that you're doing. So God bless you, and thank you so much for your time. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you've been blessed and touched by this podcast. And the takeaway from this podcast would be that you and I can give hope to our future generations by just being responsible and also taking care of our environment as well. And you and I, we have the obligation to our Creator to take care of His creation. And with that, thank you so much. We hope you've been blessed. God bless all of you.